Welcome to the Outhouse Lounge, where we relax and talk about dung, whatever you want to call it. With me in the lounge today is an actor you know, probably from a plethora of on-screen appearances and varied roles. You might know him as Mr. Heckles from Friends. Perhaps you know him as Charley Butts from Escape from Alcatraz. Or maybe even as Kramer from the show within a show, Jerry. That's from Seinfeld, of course. He has a book about his life, experiences, roles, and other work. Welcome to the Outhouse Lounge, Larry Hankin.
Well, I'm happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Your book is called That Guy, a cautionary memoir, a roller coaster, a ride only matched by Edmund, a butler's tale, I would say, perhaps. What prompted you to write the book about your life, though?
I didn't want to forget it. That's at the bottom line.
You have to write it down, I guess.
I just had to write it down because my mind was starting to go. No, all these stories, they were stories that I would tell after I would do a show. You know, something would happen on the show, or and you tell your friends, hey, like they'd say, hey, you were on Friends. What was that like? And I go, blah 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 blah. Hey, it was this and that and the other thing. And they go, oh, that's a funny story. And each time I would do a show, that would happen, blah, blah, blah. And, oh, that's a funny story. So I thought, I got to just tape these because I'm gonna forget them. And they're really good stories. So I kept taping them or doing them on, I had a one-man show, on stage of just me talking about basically what's in the book. So I was doing them on stage, but they were all coming out of my own mouth. And I thought, I got to get this down so I can get on with my life and not just keep repeating these. So I recorded them, and then there's an app on Microsoft where you can put a tape into it and it'll type it out. So I got another guy, like a podcaster like you, and we worked on Saturdays. And he recorded everything, or I gave him all the recordings, and he was in New Jersey, and he typed it out and sent them to me, and then I edited that into the book. So that's how it came about.
That's a good idea. You don't want to forget these stories anyway, or you don't want to leave any details out. Write them as you remember them, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, like now I'm writing a second book, and it's kind of hard because these are things I didn't write down. I mean, everything that I wrote down, I put in the book. So I've got new stories, but they happened a long time ago, and I didn't tell these stories. These are just, my personal life stories that happened a long time ago.
Well, let's get into that.
A lot of details I can't remember, or so it's harder. The second one is harder. Whatever you do, the second one is harder. That's because you know what you're in for. I think that's what it is. The first one, you don't know what you're doing. You don't, hey, let's just go. And then the second one, you know what it's going to be like. So I think that's why it's harder.
Well, let's get into this book. You talk about your life as well. You talk about things you did. Yes, your roles. We're going to get into that. But you talked about when you were struggling. A lot of people think, hey, let's go act. These guys don't do much. They go in, they audition, and get out. It's a very tough life, especially when you're starting out. And your book not only really shows people. I understand you call it a cautionary tale. Might be half joshing, but the idea is your book shows that you really went through a heck of a lot, even some time living in your car.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's not easy. Well, maybe no job is easy because I considered it a job, not a calling. My calling is I'm a storyteller. I'm a born storytelling anthropologist is really what I am. What I love to do. Acting was just a lot of money, and it was kind of fun. And kind of interesting, and it was using my performing abilities, but it never was a calling. It never was my dream. I never dreamed of being an actor. So after a while, it just became a job, a hard job, a difficult job, auditioning, and you can't have any kind of other kind of job because you have to leave to go audition. So you got to get a special kind of job, maybe a temp job, so you can leave to go audition because that's where the money is.
That's funny. It's funny because one of your first roles was in That Girl, which is about a struggling actress who had to take a lot of temp jobs.
Yeah, well, that's just ironic and just lucky, or foreshadowing. But I didn't know about that, and I didn't realize it, and I didn't even know what the show was about. I remember doing it. I never talked about it much because nothing really happened, and I was just dressed in ordinary clothes, and I just played an AD, television AD. So I was just normal me. There was no acting involved. I had very few lines. It was my first job. So, I mean, there was nothing to it. I just went in, I said my lines, and I went home. And I don't remember too much about anything about it. Nothing happened, so there was nothing that impinged on my memory. But as things went along, I started to pick up things, and funny things happened. And so I started to tell stories when I came home. Like I kind of know where it came from. When I used to come home from school, like in public school mainly, my mom would always say, well, what happened in school today? And I would tell her. So coming back from, acting jobs or whoever I was with, I would, say, hey, how is it on Seinfeld? And I'd tell them. So it was just the same thing over and over again on a different level, and I was getting paid. But that's just where it came from, and I just started writing down the interesting things or talking about them more and more, telling them over and over until, and as you tell them over and over, you're editing them, you're making them better, verbally. You did blah, blah, blah. Oh, they left here, or I got to remember that, blah, blah, blah. So, yeah, the book is really the best of it. Now, when I want to tell one of those stories in the book, I got to go check the book.
But at least you can. That's a good thing. Right.
I have a whole bunch of them here.
This way, you won't forget it because they're there.
And they're honed now.
That's right.
In the book, they're honed.
And if you don't remember a fact, it's already written down. In the book, you say you had a knife held to your throat by an ex-roommate?
Yeah. Well, that comes from not having enough money and having to get a roommate and not doing the proper vetting of the roommate.
There was no internet back then, I suppose.
The ironic thing was that back in college, it was I thought I knew him because I knew him from college. And this is years later, and I called him and he said, oh, I need a place to live. I just broke up with my girlfriend. And I said, oh, well, I remember you from college. Okay. But I didn't know that he was a veteran and that he was in college on some sort of, government thing. And he had PTSD, which I didn't know about. And it didn't show in college. I guess he was young and could fight it or something. I don't know. Or maybe nobody got him mad. But years later, when I called him and I said, hey, I heard you may be looking for a roommate. And he said, yeah. So he became my roommate, and I didn't bother asking him what he'd been doing or anything like that. I just figured, well, we'll just pick up where we left off in college. And then we went to a bar. He liked to drink, and I didn't drink, but I would go and play a game of pool with him. And then he got into a fight in the bar, a bad fight. And he cheated a little. But hey, man, it's a fight.
This can't be good.
you can't. It's a fight, man. The other guy would have killed him or put him in a hospital. So, but basically what he did is he kicked him in the chest. He kicked him and pushed him back, and he yelled at me. My friend yelled at me, said, Larry, run. And we both ran. Now that, we ran and ran and ran and ran. And we outran everybody because in my mind, all I was thinking was, if they catch me, I'm dead. So they will not catch me. I mean, I just was running
Incentive.
for my life. I was running for my life. And then when we got home, you know, he was a Marine. That was what he was. And we run upstairs and we locked the door. I mean, it was, but we ran along about 20 or 30 blocks. Okay, we get home, we lock the door, and he goes into the kitchen and he takes the sharpest, biggest knife in the kitchen drawer, in the knife drawer. And he walks out and I go, where are you going? He said, I'm going back to the bar and I'm going to kill the guy. I'm going to fucking kill him. And I go, no, what are you talking about? And I thought, wow, man, I didn't know about this. Now, in college, he had broke up a fight where I was getting beat up. So he kind of saved me, you know, from being injured. But he broke up the fight. So now he's going out and going to kill this guy with a knife. And I'm going, whoa, wait a minute. But I didn't chase him. I just said, don't do that. And he ran downstairs. So I called the bar and I said, hey, man, you know the guy who, you know the fight that just happened? Oh, yeah, man, it was really terrible. Yeah, well, the guy's coming back. This is his friend. I was with him. And he's coming back with a knife. So the guy who beat him, you know, who they were fighting with, get him out of there because he's crazy. He's an ex-Marine. He's got a knife. I mean, just get him out of there. So he said, okay. So he got him out of there. And then about a half hour later, he came back to the house, to the apartment with the knife. And there was no blood on the knife. And I go, whew, boy. And then he goes, you ratted on me. I go, what do you mean? He said, the bartender, when I got there, they said that your friend called and said to get the guy out of here. You're coming with a knife. So talk to your friend. So he comes back to me now, and that's when he put the knife to my throat. He said, I was going to kill that guy, but there's going to be blood on this knife, so it's going to be yours now, Larry. And boom, man, he puts his knife to my throat. And then that's not bad enough. I mean, that puts fear. I mean, I've never been that frightened. And I was immobile. That's how scared I was. So
Just like I would be.
And he starts pushing me back. And I'm going, well, what was he pushing me against the wall? No. And he starts pushing me back into the bathroom, into the shower. And I go, oh, no, man, because you know what that is. I don't. Can you guess why I was so frightened?
Yeah, I saw the movie.
Yeah, I mean, because he wanted it to catch the blood. So there's no blood on the floor. I'm in the bathtub, in the shower. And he's got me pushed up against the pipes, you know, the shower pipes that go there. I'll never forget that, the feeling of the pipes on my back. And I talked my way out of it. I don't know what I said. I mean, I put a little of it in the book, but it might be right. It might be wrong. I just was talking to, and he didn't hold it away. He held it against my throat. And the other thing was that my former roommate, Carl Gottlieb, who later wrote Jaws, so we were buddies in Syracuse, in college, Syracuse. He went into the knife that he took out of the kitchen drawer. Carl was my roommate before he left. He was drafted. So then I got this guy. He goes into the drawer and he takes out the biggest knife. And I know for a fact that Carl had bought that knife to carve steak or to carve big things. So I had used that knife and I knew how sharp it was. So I knew this is real, man. This is real. But I talked my way out of it. I mean, to make a longer story shorter, I talked my way out of it. He finally came back. I think, because I was so frightened, I talked extremely calmly. I was amazed at the tone of my voice. It was very calm and, look, you know, you don't want to do this. And I even had a theme in my head. I said, don't talk about me. Don't say, don't kill me. Don't say, I want to live. Don't talk about me at all. Talk about him and his girlfriend, you know, and breaking up. So that's what hey, you know, They'll know you did it. You don't have to spend time in jail for this. You got a girlfriend. And he came to his senses and he just says, okay, so you ever fucking do that again, you're dead. Okay, so
how long did you live with
this
him
was
after
now
that?
about 4 a.m. that this all happened. From 2 o'clock at the bar to 1:30. Okay, so about 4 a.m. I stayed up the rest of the night. He went to sleep. Yeah, well, hey, just another
I'd be
day
up.
to
I'd be
him.
checking things out.
So I waited. I stayed up, and about 8 o'clock, 7 o'clock, as soon as the light came, I don't know, 6 o'clock, whatever, I just packed up whatever I could, and I just left. And I gave him the key, and I said, "This is your place. Goodbye." And I just split. Well, I packed a suitcase. And that was the last I've ever seen of him or heard of him.
It's good advice for an aspiring actor with a roommate who might go crazy.
Yeah. So in other words, what I'm saying about the Cautionary Tale, about the book is, there's these stories about Friends and Seinfeld and Breaking Bad and stuff, but in between, as an actor, you got to make a living and you got to have a life. And I just was making very poor choices in that section. I was, because at the time, show business was okay. I was a stand-up comedian at the time. I didn't get to Hollywood. This all happened in New York. So I was a stand-up comedian. I was working at coffee houses, small nightclubs. And then I got a manager, and he started booking me in bigger places. And when I got to Chicago, I was being pulled off the stage by cops.
Really?
For stand-up. Because I got into critical thinking. Carlin and Pryor and Lenny Bruce. I mean, these were my semi-hemi-demi contemporaries. They were a little ahead of me. But I started to... I saw Lenny live about four or five times. The whole arc. I saw the whole arc from the years right as he was being pulled off the stage and getting famous, and then I saw his very last ever performance of his life, and the arc was just sad. It was very sad. He was funny. God knows he was funny. He's a funny guy. He's one of the funniest people I've ever known. But it was like, I likened it, I think I mentioned in the book, it was like Don Quixote on stage trying to be funny and prove he was sane.
Nothing wrong with that.
But it was Don Quixote.
Well, you did open
Don Quixote wasn't sane.
Oh, well, look. Those windmills are pretty tough, you never know. Maybe he was sane and he knew way ahead of time those windmills were going to destroy things. Maybe.
Well, no, because there was cops standing in the back of the room.
Yeah, I'm only kidding.
Yeah, I know, but he was a beaten man, right. and I looked up to him. I mean, it's very rare that you can see an icon of yours, of one's. If it were, maybe you were an actor, it would be De Niro or Brando. And then to see him, just babbling and trying to be an actor, but, old, and you go, wow, why? So that, it was hard. It was hard, but it was filmed. Not only was I there and he was at the end of he never performed again, but it was being filmed. And that's why he did what he did. That's why he performed. And that's why I said it was Don Quixote trying to prove, because he came on with law books. He made a hunk, a bit, a 20-minute, well, he was on for an hour, but about 40 minutes of that hour was him with books trying to prove to the audience and to the cops in the back and to the camera, to the people who are going to watch this movie, that he was right and the cops were wrong and they should leave him alone. And he was trying to also make it funny. And that was the sad part, because it was funny, but it was also sad. It was his life. This wasn't a bit. He was pleading to please leave me alone and let me do what I love to do, which was tell stories and talk in a normal voice, which meant, talking about some guy who did some dumb shit. And then the cops would bust him for the shit part. But he was just being conversational. He wasn't cursing like, hey, you, blah, blah, blah. No, he was just saying, a lot of stuff is, stupid, dumb shit.
Exactly.
And that was sad. That was because he was right. And I then became being pulled off the stage for the same thing and even less. And I called my manager, who was Woody's manager. So I had a big time manager. And I said, look, man, I can't do this. This isn't fun. I mean, I saw what happened to Lenny, but this is ridiculous. And I'm not doing drugs. I mean, they were busting him for drugs and cursing.
But what were you pulled off the stage for?
Excuse me?
What were you pulled off the stage for?
For saying, okay, I'll tell you exactly one time that I was pulled off the stage for. But then that one time was spread because I was doing arenas. I was opening for the Lovin Spoonful. And they were on tour. So I was opening for an arenas. Okay. So I get on stage. This is a college audience, college arenas, college auditoriums. I'm on stage and I'm doing clean stuff. Everything is fine. I'm funny. I'm doing my job. And then I said, okay, let's go into, I said to myself, cool, I'm going to go into the other stuff, the darker, the dark stuff. So, I started to, so this is what I was pulled off stage for. Is the first thing that I did from the clean stuff. I have a microphone, here, I have a microphone. And I go, and I take this little part. I said, hey, let's talk about God now. And all of a sudden, the audience went quieter than ever. Something was wrong. And I said, okay, and then I said, okay, so here's a little guy, and I put him on the top of the microphone, and I start talking to him, and I say, hey, how you doing, little guy? I'm God. And as soon as I said, I'm God, how you doing? I heard about like 1,000 sphincters snap shut, and I go, uh-oh, this is not going to be. You can tell by the silence of an audience that what you're doing is not being approved by them. You can tell. And I knew it, but I just kept on going. And then I said, hey, where's your clothes? And what's that between your legs? And that's when the cops came on stage. And I saw a fountain. Now, that's not bad.
Oh, it's just a couple of wiener jokes, basically.
It's a wiener show. It's a wiener joke. Okay. But I didn't say that. I just said, what's that between your legs? And then I saw from the back on the aisles, 10 cops on each aisle, on each wall aisle come down. They'd been waiting back there. And I found out later that, the first time I did this, when I said, okay, what's that between your legs? The audience started to boo. The audience started to boo at what's that between your legs? No cursing, nothing. Okay. So they started to boo, no, do the funny stuff. Do the clean stuff. This is a college audience. So I stopped and I started talking to them. I said, what are you doing? I said to them as they're booing. No, the funny stuff. I said, what are you doing, man? I said, you're a college audience. What happened to sex, drugs, and rock and roll? You're supposed to like this stuff. And you're booing me? I said, okay. And then they wouldn't stop. They listened to me do that. They stopped booing to listen to me say that. But then I said, okay, I'm going to continue now because they shut up. He said, okay, so what's that between your legs? Boo, they started again, but even worse. Even worse. So I said, okay, I'll do the clean stuff. Geez, because the Lovin Spoonful are in the wings and they're yelling, do the dirty stuff. Do the dirty stuff because they wanted to riot.
They're the rockers, right? Yeah, they want cool stuff happening, right?
Do the dirty stuff. So I'm going to do the clean stuff. So they shut down. They shut up. The audience shut up and listened. So I'm doing the clean stuff. Now, here's what I found out later. When I did the what's that between your legs, the what do you call it? The head of the school, the dean of the school, was in the back listening. And when I started to say that, he called the cops immediately. When he said, I'm God, you're naked, boom, he called the cops. Now the cops came, but in the meantime, by the time they got there, I had gone back to the clean stuff. So now I'm doing the clean stuff. The cops are in the back, 20 of them, and they're standing there talking to the dean saying he's not doing anything that we see is, why should we pull him off the stage? And the dean said, wait here. So they waited. And then, I'm going clean stuff, more clean. And then when I got a really big laugh, I said, okay, let's go back to the God stuff. What's that between your legs? And boom, you see the cops coming down. All right, the deans are, now, see that. And they start coming. And they came up on stage, and I was just standing there watching this, and the kids were quiet. They saw cops, and they just shut up. And also, they were pulling off the sides of the armrests of their chairs and throwing them at me. The wooden armrests of their
yes,
chairs.
yes.
What
a righteous! No, I guess there were no tomatoes or whitefish around, huh?
Yeah, right. Just well, if I was hit by one of them, it would have hurt me badly.
Yeah.
So the cops took me off but you see that. So then when we went to the next venue, which was in Northwestern University, when we got off the bus to go to register into the hotel, there was the dean, a cop, and a priest waiting for us.
Sounds like the beginning of a joke.
What? Excuse me?
Sounds like the beginning of a joke. Hey, a dean.
Well, no, yeah, right.
Priest.
Yeah, well, a cop and a priest and a dean walked into a hotel, and they said, we would like to, is there a Larry Hankin in this group? The dean said. And the managers immediately knew what this was all about. The managers are traveling with us. They're managers, the Lovin Spoonful. So they stepped in between us and they said, they step in between us and they turn their backs on the priest and the cop and the priest and the dean. And they turned to us and they hid their finger. And they said, because the cops are back there now. The cop and the dean and the priest. And they goes, okay, look, I want everybody to go up to his room. And he pointed at me. His room, lock the door, and don't let anybody in except us. Go. And we just split for the elevators. They turned around and then he started talking. Okay, so we're up there for about 20 minutes. Knock on the door. And the Lovin Spoonful, meanwhile, we're talking about what should we do? The Lovin Spoonful and me are in my room, lock the door, and we're talking about, well, should you do the dirty stuff or the clean stuff? And the Lovin Spoonful was saying, do the dirty stuff, because they wanted a riot. And they wanted me to be busted, for publicity. They liked me. They just wanted the publicity. So I'm saying, well, yeah, but I got a career too, and blah, blah, blah. And knock on the door, and the managers come in. They say, well, they don't want you to go on, Larry. I go, why? And they say, the dean of the other school, Washington U in St. Louis, called ahead. See, that's what the whole thing was. They kept calling ahead and saying he's a dirty commit. Well, the correct quote was, the Lovin Spoonful are traveling, have an opening with a filthy-mouthed comedian. That was what they called me, a filthy-mouthed comedian. So they said, if he goes on, we're shutting the concert down. Then the Lovin Spoonful can't play. So Lovin Spoonful thought that was okay. They said, hey, Larry, do the dirty stuff and we won't do the concert. That's fine. Let him shut us down. We the publicity is worth it. The managers weren't like Lovin Spoonful. They were like managers. No, look, all right, look, Larry, I tell you what, they said they gave us a second option. Oh, now that the Lovin Spoonful said that they want to close down the concert, suddenly a second option came up for me.
Yeah, of course.
So, oh, really? What is the second option? If you do clean material, you can do the concert. But as soon as you do anything dirty, we're shutting down the lights. So he said, so the Lovin Spoonful, so let's do that and just do the dirty stuff. Let's do that. So I said, okay. But I was going to do the clean stuff. I thought. And then as the audience is filling up, I said to them, oh, fuck it. I'm going to just do it. I can't. I'm not going to play this game. So I just went out there and I did my regular material, just what I was doing. And then about 5 minutes of clean stuff, and then the rest is just critical thinking stuff, not dirty stuff, just critical thinking stuff, politics, sex, religion, blah, blah, blah. Just topics that you talk about,
I did get you fired today.
Well, yeah.
That gets you canceled and shut down today.
And nothing happened. There just laughs and everything was fine. Nobody did nothing. No cop showed up. And that was the way it went for the rest of the tour. But in nightclubs, yes, the headliners that I would open for would say clean or dirty. You can't do dirty stuff. If you do dirty stuff, you can't open for me. For us. Kingston Trio, clean stuff. They came at me with beer bottles. Get the fuck off the stage because I said shit or something. And that was a nightclub, so they can get at me. It was just a dance floor, and then upside down beer bottle. So that's life in show business. That's that's crazy, man. So I called.
These guys seem so mild mannered. The Kingston Trio, they come after.
Yeah,
oh boy,
I'm a funny guy.
Yeah.
I just want to make people laugh.
You learn new things here on the Outhouse Lounge, and.
Yeah. So I called my manager and I said, look, it's not fun anymore. I don't want to do this. I don't want. So he said, join Second City. So I auditioned and joined Second City. Then we opened in San Francisco with
you founded
the committee.
You co-founded that, right?
And then we became actors because Hollywood was right down the block, San Francisco to LA.
From what I'm noting from your book, Larry, from what I'm noting from your book, as far as getting into acting, a lot of your characters seem, now again, I'm just sitting here reading and watching and looking, so I'm not there and I wasn't there, but some of these characters seem to be drawn from your experiences before becoming famous, I should say.
In what way do you mean? Can you be a little more specific?
Some of them a little bit of just a little way out there, a little different. That's just me. And maybe the survivorship of some of the characters, that sort of thing.
Well, yeah. In other words, there was an edge to whatever I did because of what I'd been through. I was going, whatever the role was, I was saying, no, this is a piece of cake. I've been in worse situations than this character. Even old Joe. It was just fine. Yeah, I once I'm out there in front of a camera, I drop any facade or mask, and I just through the character, I'm me. It's always me.
Well, that's the funny thing. You one of your more famous characters, and I guess a lot of young people know you because the resurgence of Friends and everything else. And all the syndication is your Mr. Heckles character. I'd love to know how much of you is in this guy.
Well, there's certain characters that I know instinctively because you're right. I may have lived it, but more specifically, it's somebody that I know. It's not me, but like Mr. Heckles is my grandfather. That's it. He was the manager of an apartment house, and he wouldn't turn up the heat or take out the garbage. He just didn't care. And I would always get, not me, I was about 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 years old at this point. But my mom would always get calls from the apartment house people saying, would you please come here and tell your father to take out the garbage and take care of the hot water, whatever. And then he'd say, Larry, put on your coat. We got to go talk to Grandpa. And so we'd get in the car and go over to the apartment house and talk to my grandfather. My mom would talk to her father about, Pop, you got to take out the garbage. You're a manager, you got to take care of these people. You can't just forget it, all right, okay. So that was Mr. Heckles. He was just a crank.
He was a fun character, though. I understand. I want to step back on this one because I thought I read something about the producers not wanting you on not wanting Mr. Heckles on the reunion special, but you were there anyway. They brought you in.
Well, because I'm very hard to deal with, man. I didn't get along with anybody on the set, of Friends. I never got. Not that I was angry or that I was feisty or anything like that. No, but I'm not. I'm kind of shy, I guess. I don't know. I just keep to myself, And also, I have dyslexia. I've had it since I was born with it. So it's very hard for me to remember lines. So I take extra time, and it's in my almost. I think it's in my contract, but I have to get the script early. In other words, the first of the first people who get any script, I have to be one of them in any show that I do, and then I can memorize it because I need the time. That's all it is. And everybody's, fine, sure, send them the script early, whatever. Even with the changes, send it to them early. Okay, fine. So I'm okay. But sometimes they change it in rehearsal, and then I get a little flummoxed a little. So, so I kind of stand up for myself, say, hey, all right, just, blah, blah, back off. And I think that's also called ahead. So they think I'm hard to work with. And I think that's why they didn't want me in the reunion because they wouldn't let me on the set. They wouldn't let me anywhere near anybody. When I came in, they put me in my own dressing room. And I said, well, can I go downstairs and watch the show, the reunion? And they go, no, you have to stay in your room. What?
That's not very nice.
No. And then I said, well, I have to go to the bathroom one time, because I was in there for about 20, 30 minutes, 40 minutes. I don't know, a long time. So I had to go to the bathroom. So I said, so they had to, so they said, oh, yeah, well, yeah. So they took me down, and the bathroom was downstairs near where they were shooting. So I saw the shooting. I saw them shooting. And I saw a lot of other actors, and they had, the seats, for the audience, the bleachers. So everybody was watching. There was about 100 people just standing around all over the set watching them tape. And I said, can I just watch? And they said, no, you have to. So I said, okay. But so that was kind of I thought, well, this is part of the Friends thing. I just didn't get along on the set. And that's why they killed me. That's why they, gave him a heart attack on the fifth show.
Fifth show.
I mean, on the sixth show, they would have had to raise my salary because that would have been a recurring.
So that's how it works. The 5 episodes and you're
and then the sixth you paid more by contract, by union, by legal, and they just let's kill them off because they needed an apartment for one of the characters. Here's how. See, when you audition, my attitude. See, I have an attitude problem. I do. I know it. Sometimes I try to deal with it. Sometimes I don't bother. But when I went into audition for like Friends, Yeah, generally my attitude is you people are way stupider than me. But okay, let's audition. I'm going to audition for you. You're going to judge me. You stupid people. Then that's kind of, and every once in a while you run into some people. Hey, you people are smart. You know what's good or bad. And sometimes I'll say, you should have hired the other guy. He's much better than me. The guy who went in before me, I listened at the door. He's really good. Hire him. I've done that. I just see. It's not my shtick. I wasn't born to be an actor, so I can. This is a free for all. I'm getting a lot of money. I've got some money in the bank. I'm equal to you. If you want to be stupider than me, that's your prerogative.
There you go.
You're sitting on that side of the table. So go ahead. But then I can talk back to you if you get out of line. I loved that freedom that I gave myself. I didn't do it very often. You can't do it all the time, man. People just get tired and wouldn't hire you. But in other words, I would do it, and my talent just outdistanced my attitude. So they would hire me, and I could get away with it. And I would, and I minded my P's and Q's when I thought, no, I better not do it this time. These people look mean.
What happened with Kramer? Looking at
Kramer, I just loved.
I was watching.
Heckles and Kramer are the same,
right? I was watching the guy, the real Kramer, when he was running for mayor of New York City, and talking to you now, I can see some people. I believe it was I guess somebody was. You were one of the original choices to play Kramer. I can see that because there's a lot of you and him and you, at least from talking to you today.
Well, it's real New Kramer. York. It's where we're New York, and we're ex-hippies, and we're tall, and we kind of look alike, So we're quirky. But Larry David wanted me for Kramer from the beginning. It was the producers and the director and everybody else who didn't. Michael Richards wanted me.
Well, you got to be Kramer, though. You still got to be Kramer in one episode.
Well, yeah, finally, it got down to because of my imitation.
Right.
They gave me that episode. That was a Kramer episode. That was real.
It was good.
The Kramer words that I was saying was from an episode they did about a year before or months before. So they sent me the episode of me, do with the pillows and stuff. So they sent it. So I just watched it for, I think, ages. I think I watched it 1,000 times. And I wasn't acting. I was just imitating Michael Richards doing Kramer, what I saw on the TV. And I don't think anybody else was privy to that. So that was a great thing that somebody did me the favor of sending me that. So I don't think they had any choice. There's nobody who could do Kramer like I did it because I watched it 1,000 times. I had it pretty much down. So that's how I finally got the role. But I had to audition 5 times. That was unheard of. It's unheard of.
Well, you might be able to run for mayor then, just like the other Kramer.
Who knows?
Yeah, that would work perfectly. I have to ask this, though, because you were in one of my favorite movies, Armed and Dangerous. And
wow. Yeah, that's a cool movie. Yeah.
From what I understand, a lot of your stuff was left on the cutting room floor for a rather peculiar reason.
Yeah. Well, I didn't get along with, yeah. I love that.
There he is.
I love that scene.
Me too.
But you see that picture right there? Okay, that's a very iconic picture in the industry because when that scene happened, everybody thought, again, that I was Kokolovitch and I loved firing guns. They thought that was real, that scene. What I was doing right there. They thought that guy loves firing guns. And nobody would come near me, man. And the director thought that I was crazy and on acid. So he didn't shoot me at all. He didn't photograph. He didn't film me at all. Or let me put it this way: he filmed me when he had to, when I was part of a scene saying something, but he always did it in a 2-shot because he told me, the director told me, that he was ordered by the producers to put Larry Hankin back in the movie. He had cut me out of the movie totally, and didn't film me as well as anybody else because he thought he wouldn't use me. He thought, I don't have to shoot him. I'm not going to keep him in the movie. He's crazy. He's on acid and he's wild. He's dangerous. Look at that. He's firing a gun, man. He loves it. So he was afraid of me. He wouldn't even talk to me. Now, he told me this about a year later when I met him at another thing. And I went up to him and I said, you always talk to me rudely or loudly, or you would talk to me twice. Why? And he said, because I thought you were on acid, man. I don't think he said man. I think he said, because you were on acid and I didn't want to get near you. And I thought, you loved guns. I didn't understand. He said, I'm sorry. But he says, if you go, it was at the cast and crew screening that he said that to me before I went in. He said, before you go in, I want you to know what you're going to see about your part. And he explained why it looked like it looked. Because what he did was he didn't do any answer shot. You know what answer shot is? If you do a close-up on me talking to you, you got to do a close-up of you listening to me. Right. You talking, I'm listening to you. Boom, boom, answer shot. He didn't do it. If somebody was talking to me, they get a close-up of him, and then they get a master shot of me answering. Or just him listening to me and you just hear my voice. In other words, he tried to keep me out of the frame as much as possible. And then when the producers hollered at him after they saw the final cut of his,
I'd be
said,
upset.
Where's Larry Hankin? Where's Kokolovitch?
Right.
And he said, well, he's on the cutting room floor. We cut him out. He's crazy. He said, he's not crazy. He's funny. Put him back in. And under orders from them standing in the editing room, he had to go through. He told me, he confessed this to me before I went in to see the cast and crew screening. He confessed to me that he had to go through the outtake bins to find anything with me, any scene with me in it.
Just because he was scared of you acting.
Yeah, well, I think because of my gun, he thought, well, he'll shoot me if I don't do this.
I guess that's the mark of a good actor. When you scare the
It happened 3 times in my career where the director thought I was the character. Kokolovitch, who's the other one? The Hell's Angel in Hey Landlord.
Oh boy.
And Larry, I don't remember. The director wouldn't come near me because he thought I was a real Hell's Angel. Yeah, funny. and then one other one I can't remember. But yeah, I was the real thing.
And that Seinfeld episode, George was afraid of you because of a couple of things too. But that was kind of funny. It seems like it kind of came to a little head there too in that Seinfeld episode.
When I was Kramer?
When you were Kramer, yeah. The real George.
No, Costanza. George.
That's what I mean. George Costanza was afraid of you. The character.
No, he is a great actor.
Right.
He's never actually been stretched, but doing the scene with him, I realized that this guy is really cool. Yeah. He's not afraid of me. He's
the character. The character was.
Yeah, the character. But that was the actor. He really is a good actor.
I've seen it. I think the man's fantastic. I just like the dynamic between you and him.
Yeah. And he brought it, man. He brought it. I knew he made me even be better. There's a lot of times where somebody will, make you be on your toes, man. Bring your best game.
Well, that's the funny thing. What we were talking about today, a little bit of each of what you were discussing. That scene just rings in my head, where you're sitting here saying, "I'm the smart one, you're the stupid one on the other side of the table. You're going to have to bring it to me. I'm going to bring it to you, but I know I'm the." And of course, the director being afraid of you here and there. That kind of comes to a head in that particular scene, and that's why what we're talking about is a little extra funny for me, I suppose.
Well, yeah, you mean the scene where I go, I don't want you to talk to, when I'm
Yes.
don't tell me about or any other dried fruit.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
that's that scene. Yeah, and that's what exactly. I was channeling that anger from, don't tell me I'm stupid, you're stupid. Yeah, exactly. I see what you're talking about. No, definitely that is true.
Yeah, a
I
lot of
would
people
just
don't
tap
travel on
into
my
that
wavelength.
stuff.
I'm way out there
Use it.
too sometimes. So
Yeah, but that's what good acting does. And then you're controlling it, but you're using it. Yeah, yeah. And sometimes I would do that in the committee or in the second city, but I wouldn't even. It would be subconscious. I wouldn't know it. But you would do a good scene. Why? Because you had tapped into the adrenaline of that happenstance.
we have a
just
few
really did
minutes
good
left.
job.
We have a few minutes
Okay.
left for the show, Larry. I wanted to ask you this question because this is where it all boils down to. I am always a fan of the actor who can play not the biggest roles in a show, but make the smaller roles memorable, make the recurring characters memorable, make this guy steal the scene here and there. Those are my favorite actors, and why. Uh, it's fascinating to see how you all do that. So I'm going to ask you the question: how do you make these characters lovable and memorable, even with the smaller parts?
Oh, okay, that's a great question. Two answers. One is, well, maybe there's just one answer. I think because when I used to come off the stage in the committee, and the audience would be, applauding, I would wonder, what are they applauding about? I mean, now it was a scene that I just did with, say, another guy or girl. Okay, so there's only two people in the scene, big laughs, a lot of applause. I got, okay, so half the applause is hers or his and half the applause is mine. But I don't know what I did to even deserve half of it. I never understood what the audience liked. And they would come up after the show and they'd say, hey, you're really great. So the only thing I can think of is that I was born with what they like. And any other actors that you like because they're character actors, not the star, but you like them. It's because they were born with something that's attractive, that you like about them, and they have no control over it. I have no control over it. I have done some things that I thought were really bad, and people say, "Oh, that was wonderful. We loved you." But I always want to ask, well, what did you love? What I don't understand. Even when I did something really great that I thought was great, and the audience thought was great, or they didn't think was great. I just wondered what did you see that attracted? There's no explanation for what you just asked. Is my answer to that? I can give you technical and specific things that I do. Like I channel my grandfather, or I channel my uncle, or I channel my anger. But how I steal scenes, that's your word, not mine. I don't steal scenes. I just be there.
Yeah, for lack of a
And
better term, I suppose.
no, well, but that's what it is, and they always say, like, here's the only answer I could give you. It just occurred to me. There's an old saying in acting. Never do scenes with children or animals, dogs. Never do scenes with children or animals. Why do you think that is, Chris?
Because they're so cute, supposedly, that people will stare at them.
Okay,
or the
there's your
dog
answer.
might pee on you. That's the other
Okay.
answer.
Okay,
The kid might too, by the way.
all correct, all correct. The thing that we take is the dog or the child, is not doing whatever calls the audience's attention to them on purpose, right?
Exactly. Smart. See, The smart actors know what they're doing. That's why when you sit at the table, you're the smart one and they're the dumb ones. That's perfect. I like it.
Right. You didn't hire me? How stupid can you get?
I'd say they're stupid because a lot of us remember your characters. I remember I produced a show where I brought in L.Q. Jones to talk to the host. He was the guy who was shot and killed, at least at that point, more than anybody else in TV and movie history. But that's where you're memorable. I love Jonathan Harris because Jonathan Harris was always memorable. The look on his face, the things he do.
Yeah,
Yes, he did.
I mean, they just react in the right way, but it has nothing to do with. I mean, they do their homework, they do their research, they memorize their lines. They get relaxed. They go into the scene. They move the scene forward. They come with energy. But really, the reason you're watching them is there's no explanation. There's no explanation.
I do want to say thank you.
Because people come to me and all of a sudden say, how come I always watch you in the scene? I don't know, man. I'm not doing that on purpose. I don't want you to watch me. You got to watch the star. But, fine. I get paid a lot of money because you watch me.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Exactly.
Thank you.
And those are the smart people on the other side of the table who know when they can bring somebody in like that. So that works too. Speaking of smart, this book is fun. It's a roller coaster. It's real life, and it's your stories. It's what you had written down. It's called That Guy, a cautionary memoir by my guest, Larry Hankin. Larry, for our viewers and our listeners, where can they find more about not just the book and you, but what you're doing nowadays and maybe next?
Well, I'm writing the next book, and I'm going to be in a movie in September. So I got some things coming, and I'm going to try to turn this book into a movie. So that's coming up. So those are the three things. But you can get this book on Amazon, mainly Amazon.com, and Patreon. Go to Patreon. That's my channel on Patreon. Patreon. It's patreon.com/Larry Hankin. Patreon.com//Larry Hankin. One word, Larry Hankin. So that's my channel. You can find all my little videos, my little videos that I make with my money that star me. And they're funny. They're little comedies. So so those are the two places. And then just buy the book. It's really funny. And give me a gold star. Amazon loves gold stars, and so do I, because they'll advertise your book. If I get enough gold stars, they will advertise my book for me.
Well, that's what you need. Gold stars.
I need gold stars.
Do that. You can find it on Amazon. Find Larry on Patreon. Support his work. Support his cool shorts and everything, which we didn't get much of a chance to talk about. We'll have to do that another time.
We'll do that another time.
Yeah. I want to focus on your characters there and your shorts. That would be a lot of fun. Cool. Maybe play some clips.
Okay, so the last thing I got to say is, if you buy the book and give me a gold star, I'll be your best friend.
And thank you all for joining us on the Outhouse Lounge. We'll have some more coming up where we relax and talk about more